Should I buy a Brompton? Here are one or two things you might want to think about before you take the leap. So when should you buy a Brompton? What a loaded question. Here I'm going to give a few thoughts about why I bought one and maybe when you might not want to buy one. So I suppose the first place to start is when would you buy a Brompton? So the Brompton is designed to be used in the city, and for that purpose it's been fantastic for me. I used this before COVID, before the lockdown, pretty much every day to go to work. After work I used to meet friends and I was never refused from a restaurant or a pub. You just fold it up, take it in with you. In my office I could just tuck it up out of the way. So it was fantastic. But even in everyday performance, to get to work, sometimes I took the train some of the way in. So I could fold this up, take it on the train, even if it was packed, unfold it and be on my way. In that scenario, it's been perfect. In terms of performance in the city, it's got 16-inch wheels, it's got quite a long wheelbase when it's unfolded, so what that means, it's really manoeuvrable, yet stable, so you can weave in and out of traffic if you need to do that. And the gearing's set up in such a way, this is a 6-gear version that is, you know, pretty good for most scenarios. If there's some gentle hills and you've got to accelerate off quickly, there's a good ratio of gears available to you in for short distances. So that's one reason, is commuting and city life. In that environment, it's an amazing machine. One of the other reasons why I love Bromptons is that you can just take them on public transport. There's very few other bikes that you could do that with. If you take a full-size bike onto the train, there are restrictions in the UK anyway on time that you can go in, and if it's packed, you just feel bad that you're taking up space that other people could use. So this solves that problem. The other thing about having a bike is many times you have to lock it outside, and I've had lots of bikes stolen in my time, and with the Brompton you can take it with you anywhere, so you don't have to worry about locking your bike outside, going to meet some friends, coming out and it's gone. I mean, there's no worse feeling than that when you come out and your bike's gone. But with the Brompton you can take it anywhere, it doesn't have to leave your side, so you've got eyes on it all the time. So let's move on. When would you not want to buy a Brompton? I would not use a Brompton for long distance commuting. If you live more than, say, 5 miles away from your workplace, you'll be faster and more comfortable on another regular type bike. That doesn't mean you can't do it, of course, so you know, you can cycle for as long as you want, but I'm comparing in terms of comfort. Beyond about the 5-mile mark, on a straight line, an equal race, then a Brompton's probably not the best bike to do that. The second point is speed. If you need to get somewhere really fast and you're a speed demon, then Brompton isn't for you. It's got 16-inch wheels that slows it down. The design is very upright, so in your sitting position, and it's got a flexible frame. You'd expect this to be at least a few miles an hour slower than using a regular bike. I've certainly found that. But I would add that people do commute long distances on this, and they can cycle this fast, but I'm just comparing it against a regular bike here. The other thing you might want to consider is if you've got really poor quality roads. These Schwalbe tyres that came with this bike do a really good job, and you can certainly ride this in areas that you probably shouldn't ride it on, and it can cope pretty well. But if you've got lots of potholes, these have got 16-inch wheels, and you really feel it if you go over a pothole or a big bump. And the other thing is that the tyre pressure is high compared to a lot of other bikes, so you will really feel those bumps as you go along. The other times that I might not use this is in really hilly areas. This is an M6L, and it's got 6 gears, so they're pretty good, and you can get up some really steep hills, but if you're used to coming from a bike with 20 gears, you're going to notice a difference. That's just simple mechanics. There is a bit of a learning curve to getting used to that reduced numbers of gears. That's one consider. If you live in really hilly areas, then this might not be for you. Again, you can do it, but I'm comparing it to a regular bike. But as I've said all that, what you'll find on YouTube is people do cycle these long distances. They do cycle them up steep hills. They do even go cycle touring on these things, something that I want to do. So you can do all those things, but if you're going to compare it to a regular bike, there are certain places where this will excel, particularly in cities, but it might not excel so well on long distances, poor quality roads, hilly areas. And the big one that a lot of people consider is the cost. These bikes are not cheap. This one, at the time I bought it, is an M6L. Was £1,300, I think, thereabouts. So it wavers around that mark. So they're not cheap, and you have to ask yourself the question. You could get maybe 2 good quality regular bikes at that cost, and there's also a couple of brands of folding bikes that can give some decent competition to these. Dahon, for example, do a range of bikes that are pretty popular. But there is one thing about a Brompton that a lot of Brompton owners already know of, is it's got the X factor. There is something about these bikes that makes you smile. Maybe it's the engineering. Nothing looks quite like these bikes. They're unique in the way they look, and the build quality. When you pick it up, you know it's been built well, and it's got a history to it, and they're made in Britain, so all those things combined give it character. I've owned lots of bikes, but I've never owned a bike that I've become so attached to, and it's more than the sum of its parts. I think it can be summed up because they're fun. There used to be a time when it would turn heads. There are so many around now that that's not the case. But even now, it's part of me. And the first thing I think if I go somewhere out in the city or even in the car, I'll just say, "Shall I take my Brompton?" And if I want to, I'll just throw it in the back. And you can't do that with a normal size bike. You're always thinking about space issues, or how am I going to lock it up if I go in somewhere. You don't have to worry about that with the Brompton. It's fun. Did I answer that question? Should you get a Brompton? I think I'm biased, aren't I? I've got a Brompton already, but I think in the right scenarios, it's such a brilliant buy. And the way I justified it to myself is because they're built so well, they'll last a long time. So even though they're initially expensive, if you look after it, it would last for years. And that's how I justified it to myself. And it's an engineering icon as well. So would I buy a Brompton again? Would I do it over again? Yes, completely. It's the most fun bike I've got, and I'm more attached to this bike than any other bikes I've got. And if I was going to review it, which I did in one of my other videos, I would give it an A. As always, thanks for watching. If you do like these videos, press the subscribe button and watch out for the next BikeEnomic video.